Well, it has certainly been a pretty big day. We've got the announcement of the pre-patch being on April the 30th, and the official launch of Cataclysm Classic coming on the 20th of May. I've recorded a video probably 4 or 5 times over the last hour or so, however long it's been since the announcement went out, and I couldn't edit it. I thought the best way to actually break all this news down is to just go right at it with you guys live and break it all down, because in this post there is literally so much misinterpreted information, or information that can be misinterpreted, and there's not enough explanation around any of it. So again, rather than me just editing a video, having it all nicely polished with lots of graphics and effects and all that, I wanted to just talk to you to really gauge the community. So I really am more interested in what you guys think than what I think, because I've gone back and forwards. The first iteration of the video I posted was all hype. Oh my God, like, you know, we've got it announced. Cataclassic's coming. And then when I really sat down and read a lot of the information in a lot more detail without having a camera pointed at me, I kind of started to see some trends, and some trends which maybe some of you have not quite picked up on. So firstly, hello, good evening everyone. No matter what we take away from this video, it's still a really good day, because I think for anyone who's been playing Wrath of the Lich King all the way through and not really took any big breaks even for Season of Discovery, it's outstayed its welcome. You know, for a classic iteration of a game where we know we're meant to have had an accelerated cadence even in Wrath, for me, it hasn't actually felt that way. But what they're doing with Cata, it feels like they're going next level. Like, they definitely want to get to Mr. Pandaria very, very quickly. Like, that's what I'm taking away from this post. Whatever you take away from it, you know, again, it's very open to interpretation, but there's some serious speed that they want to get through these phases. So we're going to look at the phases. But first I want to look at the post. And hello, everyone. Hi guys. Everyone who's saying hello in chat. You can feel free to fire any questions, and if they happen to catch my eye, and I'll try and get round to them at the end. But I want to keep this quite short, nice and quick, 10-15 minutes, absolute tops, and then we're all out of here. So it's not going to be me reading this, you know, word for word. First of all, I want to make it really, really clear, a lot of this is all reused from the original Cataclysm announcement. So much like at BlizzCon when they announced it and everyone had questions, there's a lot that's wrong here. You know, the amount of raids that are available at launch, the amount of raids that are available throughout the entire game, the amount of dungeons and heroics that there are. Don't look into that too much and think we're getting extra content, because with the speed that we're going to be getting through this expansion, there's zero chance of getting any extra content outside of what's listed here. So this is the important part. So faster content cadence, which we've seen. We've seen, you know, we've got the pre-patch launch, like literally the entirety of Classic Cata is laid out in front of us. So literally by this time next year, we'll be playing MoP Classic. Now, many of you know I'm a big MoP fan, so there's no, there's no secrets that I'm not completely upset with the speed that we're going to go through it, as long as one of the things that they've mentioned in this news post turns out to be what I think it should be, which we'll get round to. So firstly, we've got faster content cadence, accelerated leveling. Now, we already know the accelerated leveling is only going to happen between 60 and 80. Nothing else. Because they announced that at BlizzCon. Now, my problem with most of this at the moment is it's going to be coming in very, very soon, as in this month. And most of this stuff may already be available on the beta. And if it is available on the beta, it's not working. So I'm a little bit concerned at how much of it's going to work properly at launch if they don't get their finger out and start, you know, looking away from Season of Discovery for a little bit and really setting their focus on Cataclysm. I truly believe if they do that and they spend the next 3-4 weeks with a lot of focus on Cataclysm, they can get all this stuff working by launch. That's one thing that I went back on when I was recording the video and I was super negative and I was watching it and I was like, I don't want to put this out because this is not what I really feel. That was one of my main points, was if Season of Discovery starts going to shit and they have to put more focus there, Cata will suffer for it, and the Cata launch will suffer for it. But anyway, accelerated leveling. Improved guild features. Now, again, the guild features are on the beta at the moment, and if you watched the podcast last night, you would have seen I was showing it off on stream. It's basically just the retail guild system, but currently there's no guild levels. There's loads of perks missing. You're starting with loads of perks, so you can't go by the beta. I'm hoping that the improved guild features is just increased leveling or more streamlined guild experience gain by size. This is what I was explaining before, where a 10-man guild can level as quickly as a 25-man guild to get their perks, but outside of that, I don't want to see much change. Remove cash flow if you want, whatever, but again, we'll have to see how that shapes up over the next week or two on the beta and then cast judgment on it. Also, new heroic dungeon system. Now, we don't actually know exactly what that means yet either. We're all assuming Titan Rune dungeons of some description, but they're announcing all this stuff, but we just don't know how any of it works. So I'm not going to turn this into a speculation video. We're just going to be very to the point. They've announced a lot of stuff. They've reused a lot of content from the original Cataclysm launch blue post and then pasted it on here. So you can go and look for that yourself. Account-wide collections, that's already in on the beta. So yeah, we've got like the retail transmog system, which is great. I've got no issues with that at all. Mythic Plus, I'd like Mythic Plus as well, to be honest, Tasso, but anyway. And streamlined auction house. Again, something I'm assuming that this is going to be more of a retail-esque feature that I personally don't actually know about because I don't play retail. So, you know, if any of you boys know, then drop a comment and tell me what that actually means. But, I mean, I could probably log on retail and work it out for myself if I could be bothered. So, the pre-patch. This is where my first issue is. The pre-patch is going to be 20 days. They're cutting a pre-patch that was originally 6 to 7 weeks long into 20 days. And actually, it looks like they're going to be skipping the best part of the pre-patch. So if you've seen my video or you know anything about the pre-patch, you know it should be in 3 stages. You're going to have the first part of the pre-patch that brings the talents and the systems. Then the invasion starts, so you can go and kill old bosses that are now level 80 and get 251 gear. And then there's this part of the pre-patch. So this is like the final stage of the pre-patch, and it basically skips all of the stuff that's actually added specifically for the pre-patch event. So I want you to just bear that in mind. So we're literally going straight into the final part of the pre-patch where there will be no invasions. We've just got everything basically except for we can't get from 80 to 85. Everything else will be present. I've got mixed feelings on that. I'll be completely honest with you. I would have preferred the old style pre-patch any day of the week because the invasions are actually fun and there's achievements tied to them, which we're not going to be able to get unless they somehow implement the invasions into the Shattered World, which sounds like a lot of work when there's basic mechanics and basic features that are not even working on the beta yet. There's actually achievements. There's is it just the achievements? I don't think there's a toy, but there's things that we're not actually going to be able to obtain by rushing the pre-patch and just putting it out in its final state. So not a fan. Okay. Now, the next part is the bit that I've seen everyone on Discord up in arms about, and I want to put some clarification around it and what I think it means and what it should mean. So that's 2 very different things. What I think it means and what it should mean. So I will clarify that. But firstly, what's in Cata? We know all the new dungeons and heroics. You probably watched me on kick.com/Scottejaye, getting a plug in while I'm live. You've probably seen me doing all the heroics. I'll be doing the heroics again tonight. You've seen me leveling in all the new zones. We know what all those are. Dungeon Journal is in on the beta now, but it's not working properly. We know about the raids. They've missed out Barradin Hold, which is part of the Toll Barra PvP zone, but I can't really expect Blizzard to know their own content. But the flexible raid lockout system. This is the one that I really want to put some emphasis on. Because everyone is instantly reading this and saying, oh, right, okay. So if we look, we're getting really fast patches, but we're going to be able to get twice as much loot. I'm assuming that is probably what you thought when you read it. You was like, well, okay, we're going to get through Blackwing Descent a lot quicker, but we can do 10 and 25, so we're going to get more loot. So it's kind of still the same amount of raiding that we're going to get to do, but in a shorter time period. That would make sense. And in my opinion, that's what it should mean. But I think this was actually posted from the original announcement. Because the original announcement for the new lockout system was called the Flexible Raid Lockout System. Like that hasn't changed. The name hasn't changed. In 4.0.1, it was the flexible lockout system, and it did allow players to do both 10 and 25 mans in the same week, but only each boss once. And there's some more stipulations. If you get, if you get saved to heroic, then you have to do that difficulty. You have to do that raid size. So I've got a niggling feeling that this is being interpreted wrong, and we're like, oh, this is cool. At least we're going to be able to get double the loot. Please let that be true. I want to put it out there now that I will love that. I really, really, really hate the fact that you can't do 10 and 25 on the same character if you're doing heroic. So the perfect solution to actually having a quicker cadence, getting through the phases, getting through the raids quicker, would be to get more loot, because that would even help with progression. You could split up your 25 into 2 10s, get loads of loot from that, and then all join back up and go and do 25 man. Perfect. Like, literally makes perfect sense. But it hasn't changed its name. All right. So I just want to, that's my biggest concern with this line of text, is they're calling it a flexible raid lockout system. That's exactly what it was called in original Cataclysm. So I have a sneaky suspicion that it's going to be exactly the same as what Cataclysm raids are. Okay. Again, I'd love to see, I can't read through chat while I'm trying to get through this as quickly as possible, but comments, drop comments, and obviously let me know what your thoughts are around that, because I think we're gonna have a shock when we find out what that actually is. But overall, I'm not going to spend any more time talking about this. We know the Dark Moon Fair changes completely, where it's actually now the whole fairground with like mini events and everything. Actually, one of the better changes, in my opinion. Like, Dark Moon Fair is pretty boring up until this point. Like, it's actually really good in Cata. Flying in Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor, again, is another one where what's inside Cataclysm Classic, I feel like this one could easily move into the pre-patch, especially with the point that the pre-patch is at, but the zones are locked. You can't fly into Oldham, you can't fly into Hyjal, you just get ported out. And for anyone who's like, oh, they're not going to be able to do that, they've done it. That literally is how the beta works. I tried getting into Oldham, I tried getting into Vash, I tried getting into Hyjal, all of them places at level 80 before they were available. You can't get in. So they could absolutely do that on live. So in the pre-patch, we can fly and do archaeology and all of that stuff, but you just can't get in the new zones. Like, to me, that's a no-brainer, makes perfect sense. Okay, and now, I'm not bothered about all of this, all of the things that are being removed, because I'm doing a podcast tonight in about 3 hours, 50 minutes right here. So obviously come back for that. And we're going to be looking at things that are going away, how you can get prepared for the pre-patch, how you can get prepared during the pre-patch for launch, all of that. You know, it's all the what can you do now before Cata actually launches. So we will cover all this anyway, but I think most people know, like, that Zul'Gurub changes, so the mounts go. The tribute-based sort of achievements in TOGC go, so they turn into feats of strength, so you can't get the mount anymore. The Blue Drake is just going back to how it should have been in the first place, and then Mim's Head and Invincible will just have like a 1% drop chance. You can still go back and get them, but you can't just go and kill the boss and it drops. Now we get... Oh, I need to take a breath. Now we need to get onto the bit that has also caused quite a big stir. And I'll be completely honest with you, I don't get it. Normally, I can happily sit here and make something up or speculate and go, no, this is probably what they meant. I can't with this, because it doesn't get removed in Cataclysm. It never got removed in Cataclysm. You can go and play Dragonflight now and still go and get Insane in the Membrane. The only thing that changed is the Chandrilar reputation requirement was removed from the criteria. So you can still go and get the Insane. As I say, you can still go and get the Insane now in retail. So, again, I feel like this is something that they didn't quite understand. They didn't understand when they was drafting or copy and pasting this post that it's only that criteria that changes. So I wouldn't get too upset about that at the moment, because it would be the weirdest change I've ever seen in a classic expansion if they removed something so unnecessarily. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, oh, we've got to remove this because it's going to get cheesed in Cata, or what. There's no real reason for it. None that I can think of. So I would say calm down about the Insane. You'll probably still be able to get it. I call bullshit on this. I just think, when I look at a lot of this, when I said that I'm seeing a bit of a trend, I think there's quite a lack of understanding of Cataclysm as a whole from the current classic team. It's not one of the most played expansions. It's not one of the most solved or well-known expansions. And I think they're relying a lot on their old information, which is actually quite dated because it was, you know, probably pre 4.0.1. They're looking at their very first pre-patch announcements, very first, you know, announcements regarding Cata itself. So I do think that there's quite a lot of things here that you need to take with a pinch of salt. Whether you do or not, you can believe every word of it. But trust me, I'll believe some of these things when I actually see them, like the removal of the Insane. And then finally, because like I say, I wanted to keep this short, like it's an actual video, the actual cadence at which we're going through it. Again, like I said, depending on what that flexible loot system actually means, really changes the way I personally feel about the rate that we're going to go through the expansion. If we are going to be able to get loot from 10 and 25 man every reset, this is going to be bonkers, like so much fun. It's going to be like doing a seasonal Cata server really quick, bing bang bosh. You know, we got catch-up mechanics through the new heroic dungeons. They've even separated Rise of Zandalari, which I thought was weird, but whatever. You know, there's just going to be so much content to do that you're almost going to feel quite up against it. You know, it's like you're gonna feel like you need to play a lot, which even if you haven't got the time to play that much, it's still a nice feeling. It's a nice feeling to know that, oh, I need to get on because I need to get these things done, and rather than logging on and running around Dalaran. You know, you're always logging on with something to do. So with pre-patch being April the 30th and then launch May the 20th, that's the only one thing I'm not a fan of. I would have liked the full-length pre-patch, but okay, that's just me. But then, you know, we're looking at July. In July, we're going to get Rise of Zandalari, which, remember, that don't really count as content. So if you're not really familiar with the patches, all that adds is 2 dungeons. Literally, that's all PvE-wise content. It adds Zul'Gurub and Zolaman. And they're really catch-up heroics. They start dropping epics that are close to raid-level gear. But that's nice because that extends the amount of time that we'll be doing Bastion of Twilight and Blackwing Descent, which is nice. And then October, a few months of Firelands, and then, you know, Hour of Twilight, so Dragon Soul in January, a few months of that. This is the big takeaway, and this is more or less where I'm going to probably leave the video. Oh, that's the wrong thing. I'll have to just carry on doing it here. I was watching QI, just in case you wondered. The big concern is the flexible raid system. That is it. If we get that and we get extra loot a week, this cadence is fine. If we don't get that, this is going to feel awful because you're never going to be able to get your like full bis before one phase in one phase before the next phase comes out. So that's my only negative takeaway. All right, actually, when you think about the emotional roller coaster I've been on since this announcement went out, I think I've still kept this pretty upbeat. So good job me, because like I say, but my first take of a video was good. The second one was like, what are they doing? But I was very upset about the pre-patch. I've calmed down now. Like 2 weeks, you know, just over 2 weeks of the pre-patch, whatever. I can deal with that. Whew. So, cheers, guys. Weird way of doing a video, don't get me wrong, but I appreciate every single